What is rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and how is it different from just being sensitive? I'm Sarah Greenberg, Harvard-educated licensed psychotherapist and behavioral health leader with 20 years of experience. Today, I'll be answering some of the internet's biggest questions on rejection-sensitive dysphoria. What is rejection-sensitive dysphoria? Rejection-sensitive dysphoria, often called RSD, is this really intense reaction to real or perceived social rejection or criticism. One way to think about it is like this highly, highly sensitive smoke alarm. But it also goes off when there's something that maybe has a characteristic of smoke, but is not smoke. So while it's generally not grounded in a lot of evidence or reality, it does feel oh so very real and oh so very devastating. How does RSD affect your relationships and daily life? Let's take the example of a romantic partner. Often people feel more comfortable expressing that sense of rejection or sense of criticism in a romantic relationship. This may lead to frequent fights. You don't care about me. You don't love me. The heartbreaking paradox of RSD is that it can feel so real to you that there's not safety in these relationships. And in that way, it's just missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Fortunately, there's things that you can do to shift this and work on it, but unaddressed, it can have a rather heartbreaking impact. How is RSD different from just being sensitive? Sensitivity can be a state or a trait. Some of us are more sensitive than others, but most of us experience sensitivity at some point. RSD is very specific to the experience of social rejection or social critique. So with RSD, it's like this heightened sensitive reaction to real or perceived rejection, and more often perceived rejection. We see rejection where rejection does not exist. We take the smallest sign of rejection and we turn that into, oh my gosh, that person hates me. This could be like someone's late to respond to a text message. This could be being left off a group chat. And then the reaction just feels so intense. Very different from sensitivity, both in its level and its specificity to social belonging, social rejection, social critique. What are the signs and symptoms of rejection-sensitive dysphoria? One of the hardest things about this is that so much of it exists inside. It's not visible to others. So someone with RSD might look like they're having a great time, but inside they're feeling this intense sense of rejection, lack of connection. One of the patterns that I look for in clients that I'm doing therapy or coaching with is this ongoing pattern of catastrophizing social interactions. You go for a job interview and you get some feedback. Thank you for coming to the interview. They hated me. It didn't say anything positive. You interpret it as you didn't get a job. You get the job. You're sort of shown like, oh, maybe these feelings or thoughts aren't accurate interpretations, but the pattern still persists in the next situation, the next situation, and the next situation. That's classic RSD. What are the best coping strategies for RSD? I have a go-to approach for RSD. It starts with awareness. Notice what happens, that tape in your head. You might even track yourself for a day and kind of write it down. And what you want to do is create a little bit of distance between that tape and your own self. I'm remembering that just because I have a thought, I don't have to believe it. I have wild thoughts all the time, and I know that they aren't true. So the more distance you can create between yourself and that rejection story that plays over and over in your head, the more able you're going to be to let it play without letting it run you. What causes rejection-sensitive dysphoria? The ADHD brain is already predisposed to that heightened sensitivity and that struggle with emotional regulation. Further, the ADHD individual often has a lot of experiences of not quite fitting in, be that to the structures of the world around you. So experiences of failure in school, experiences of social rejection, experiences of getting made fun of for being a little bit different. The brain learns over time through hardship that social connection can be a little dangerous. And then it looks for evidence, right? We call it confirmation bias. So when that evidence comes, it's spotted, it's kind of grabbed onto, and it hits really hard. And by the way, if you're enjoying this episode, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What's the difference between RSD and social anxiety? RSD is about how you interpret a real thing that happened. I'm taking something real that happened and I'm catastrophizing what it means. Social anxiety is different in the sense that you're thinking about what could happen. You find yourself ruminating, sweating, really avoiding that thing because you're fearing this social criticism. Social anxiety can be experienced as a fleeting thing, something that you feel but can move through. But there's also social anxiety disorder, which is a specific condition that has specific treatment protocols and could be diagnosed by a doctor or a mental health professional. Can rejection-sensitive dysphoria lead to depression? I wouldn't say that RSD leads to depression, but it is easy to see how RSD can contribute to depression. When someone's experiencing depression, it's kind of like this cutoff between you and the rest of the world. When you have rejection sensitivity and you do have a social interaction, it doesn't go well. Or maybe it does go well, but you interpret it as it going really badly. What does that encourage you to do? Avoid, isolate. What does that perpetuate? Depression. And so if we think about how we treat depression, it's the opposite action to that. RSD can really feed those cycles that are really part of depression, and shifting that voice can support the path to healing. Are people with rejection-sensitive dysphoria people pleasers? People-pleasing is an orientation or going out of your way to make others happy or to gain their approval, even if it's at your own expense. Every behavior has a reason, even if it's not helpful. There's some underlying logic or we wouldn't do it. If we think about people-pleasing, it's going out of your way to please others, gain their approval, and can feel like a shield against rejection. Now, is it an effective strategy? Not really, but is it a common one? Yes. So people-pleasing is a common behavior for individuals with RSD, and is often something that we'll work on when someone is addressing the pattern of RSD. Is rejection-sensitive dysphoria a real diagnosis? Rejection-sensitive dysphoria isn't a formal diagnosis. You're not going to find it in any diagnostic manuals. What it is a very great description of a pattern of experiences that is very common to many individuals. And it's one of those terms that just resonates. It's kind of this, what we call a transdiagnostic experience, where it can cut across a lot of different diagnoses or conditions. It can also exist on its own. You don't need to have a mental health diagnosis to have rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Is there medication for RSD? No. It would be great if there were more treatment options for RSD, but what really does help is building awareness, insight, knowledge of your patterns around RSD, and then building skills and tools to manage it in the moment. Over time, that noise really can lessen. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, we actually have a lot more content like this on our channel, so make sure to subscribe. By doing so, you can help to further Understood's mission, which is to make sure that the 70 million people with learning and thinking differences, like ADHD and dyslexia, can thrive.